welcome back, and thank you for joining us for this edition of the 2014 Campaign Roundtable Series. I'm politics reporter Robert-rizzuto, and we are here with the 3 Democratic candidates seeking to be the next state treasurer. Everybody, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
Next, we are going to actually reflect back on something we talked about earlier. Everybody in opposition to the casino law had mentioned fear of it cannibalizing, if you will, the state lottery revenues. But I just want to ask, I know each of you have done your own research into this topic. I guess if you can just tell me a little bit about your research, because I know that in the state of Connecticut, let me see, 1986, Foxwoods opened. 1996, Mohegan Sun opened. And if you look at the state lottery revenues, for not just those years, but the ones surrounding them before, after, and going forward, they didn't take a hit. And this past year, Connecticut actually showed a record amount of revenue for the state lottery, despite 2 casinos. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that and see, tell me about your research, because I'm sure each of you didn't come to this conclusion blindly. So talk a little bit about your own process here. And let's see, Barry, this is your question first.
Obviously, information that's out there, articles that I've read. And I think the other thing I think we need to talk about too, besides just the pure data, is what are the economic impacts and the social impacts? What is that really going to do to people? And you look at foreclosure and bankruptcy. My mom, went to Atlantic City when she was young. Now we look at Atlantic City now. She also grew up in Chester, Pennsylvania. They have a casino there as well. So I think there's some really concerns that we should think about beyond just pure data about what are the true social and economic impacts of these things going to be. And I have concerns, and I think the revenues are going to go down. There are only so much dollars out there. And I think someone needs to explain to me, how can the Revel close? How can the Trump casino close? There only is a finite amount of gaming dollars out there. And I do think at the end of the day, from what I've read, that lottery numbers will go down. Because, there's Keno and there's so many other things that are similar to what happens at a casino. And I think at the end of the day, it will be, the numbers will go down.
All right, thank you. Tom?
Well, you need to do the real hardcore analysis, and that's something I did back in 2007 and 8 on this issue. And you got to make sure that you're not comparing apples to oranges. And the apples and oranges in this particular case are that Massachusetts has the most successful lottery in the country. Mm-hmm. The Connecticut lottery has never been very successful. So the fact that it's actually increased and been proven, it has improved, is not really a surprise. But it's very difficult for Massachusetts to get even better and become more of an outlier as we compare ourselves to other states, specifically related to the lottery. So need to be careful about how we do that analysis. The other thing that's going on is saturation, right? We now have, as Barry just mentioned, casinos closing in Atlantic City. We had a bailout that was required of one of the casinos in Connecticut just a couple of years ago because they couldn't support their operations and stay open without the state kicking in money. Taxpayer dollars. So these are some of the risks that come along with casinos. It's not just lottery falling, but it's also, the fact that if these casinos are performing poorly, they're going to be right back at the table, coming to the legislature and the treasurer's office asking for a reprieve on the amount of taxes that they pay as part of their casino revenues. So you really got to look closely at this. I did that. I came away thinking on a cost-benefit basis, this was not a win for Massachusetts.
Okay, thank you. Deb?
So a couple things. First of all, I want to just clear the record on something. Tom suggested that I was a lawyer. My MBA is from Harvard, and I'm a business person. Yes, I have a law degree from Boston College, but I have focused throughout my career on business. And so I do come to looking at these kind of issues from a business person's point of view with an MBA. And in terms of the casino gambling, Tom's cost-benefit analysis is exactly what I did. And on top of that, because there's a lot of research out there, and we've dug it all up and we've read it all, and I look at it, and I also think about the small immigrant store owners who are new Americans, many of them, the Bangladeshi community, the Lebanese community, who rely on the foot traffic and rely on the margins not of selling tickets for a lottery, but for the bottle of milk, for the aspirin, for the potato chips and the crayons and the coloring books, and what the downturn in revenue will do to them. These are tax-paying people. This is part of the very reason. They are the people that the community banking partnership that's in the treasurer's office wants to help finance by putting money into the local community banks, something that Steve Grossman started and something that we want to advance even further. So the analysis is there. Both of the gentlemen here at the table have given all the good reasons that I believe in, and to try and compare, I think when Tom did say you can't compare the Massachusetts lottery to the Connecticut lottery, that is for sure. And the reliance after 2.5% was put in, and that's why the lottery was established, the reliance for local communities is so high that we really don't have the room for risks. When their costs are going up 10%, but they can only raise 2.5%, the lottery is a critical piece of survival for local communities.
All right, so everybody has concerns about casinos that go well beyond what it could do to the lottery system. Okay, well, we appreciate everybody laying that down for us. Let's talk a little bit about financial literacy. This is another very important aspect of the job, kind of promoting this across the state, making sure folks know a little bit more than they may have before you come into office, helping educate them on this. Do you have specific strategies already laid out in your head of how you kind of proliferate financial literacy across the state? That's kind of what we'd like to know now. So for this next one, let's see. Tom.
I've got some great ideas. It's a really important role for the treasurer to improve financial literacy throughout the Commonwealth so that people have access to information so they can make good decisions on behalf of themselves and their families and avoid a lot of the risks and scams that are out there and fraudsters. So I want to do several things. I want to put on the treasurer's website a lot of the ABCs of financial literacy, how to take out a mortgage, how to pay student debt, how to work with a bank. There's 400,000 people, Rob, in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that are making money and have never worked with a bank. They're afraid of doing that, or there's other constraints that they're facing. So that's number one, put more information out there so that people can understand better how to make those sound decisions. Number two, every time as treasurer I'm going to a school building as part of the School Building Authority project to rebuild and renovate our schools, I want to talk to the high schoolers. I want to talk to them and ask them questions and help them learn about financial literacy so that they can avoid some of the risks and the traps that are forthcoming in their lives every time I go out to a city and town. I want to build off of the experience that I used to do when I worked in a bank headquartered here in Massachusetts, that a buddy of mine and we used to go to Dorchester schools and teach kids about math and financial literacy. This is something I've been doing for a long time, and I want to continue to do as treasurer. And I've got a bunch of other ideas that I want to have somebody in our office that's a financial literacy expert that is managing a hotline so that consumers can call in and get some help right at the spur of the moment.
Gotcha. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Barry, very important topic. What's your plan here?
That, as a state senator from the city of Lawrence, this has hit us especially hard with foreclosures and bankruptcy. We have way too many people in our state losing their houses to foreclosure and bankruptcy, and I've seen firsthand where financial literacy really can work. We have a first-time home buyer program in the city. We've had over 200 people go through this program, and in that time, less than 1% have either lost their house to foreclosure or to bankruptcy. So financial literacy really works. So what I've done is I've worked with the governor, the current state treasurer, Steve Grossman, helped get the funding for the Financial Literacy Trust Fund, which has money conferences throughout the whole state, which is helping our seniors, helping our returning veterans, making sure they understand about how to best go about things when it comes to their own financial literacy. I've also supported and was able to get money in our budget for a pilot program for our teenagers in our high schools. I hope someday that every single high school in the Commonwealth will integrate a financial literacy program and make sure that they have this program. But I think the pilot program is critical because before we scale this, we have to prove that it works. And I think it's just very, very critical that we do that. So I'm proud of the way I've led on this issue, something I'll continue to do. And I believe from day one I'm ready to go because I'm already doing the job working with the current state treasurer, Steve Grossman.
Thank you, Barry. Deb, financial literacy strategy going forward
this
with
has been a top priority for me, and I have a vision for financial literacy programs in the state that creates a robust statewide financial literacy program. The grants that are going on presently in the treasurer's office are really excellent pilots, and now we're ready to ramp it up. And I've put together a working group that includes teachers, because when we talk about schools, we need to include teachers, school committees, school superintendents. We're going to need to include whomever will come in with the new governor, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, in order to get those basic math skills into the core curriculum that makes sense about how do you calculate a mortgage, what happens if the value changes. We can be doing that as early as elementary school. I want to reinvigorate the women's conferences that Shannon O'Brien started that have sort of died away because so many women are now in charge of the finances for their households. And I had friends from Honduras and Salvador who lost their homes, who I knew because they were told, just put down 5% and we'll take care of everything else. Well, it wasn't just the mortgage, water bills, tax bills, carrying costs of a home. So we want to do these things, and including creating a college savings plan for kids as early as kindergarten, where they have aspiration for college, for kids identified on the free lunch program, later on a reduced lunch, but they also have a savings account. So they learn financial literacy from kindergarten on around their savings account and saving for college so that they don't fall prey to too much debt moving forward. There are so many things that we can do that when I look back, because I want to be treasurer for a very long time, I will know that we have created financial literacy from the youngest child to our most senior citizens. That's the kind of vision I have for financial literacy in this state.
Thank you very much. And we're getting a little bit close to the end of our time here today, so we're going to go right to our last question. We're just kind of reflecting on the fact that Steve Grossman has been in since 2010. He was recently ranked one of the top 100 investors in the country. That'll no doubt become part of his legacy. And depending on who wins the primary this coming Tuesday, the victor will take on Republican Mike Heffernan and the Green Party candidate Ian Jackson. So we'd like to know what makes you the best candidate for this job, and kind of wrapping in there, what you hope will become part of your own legacy should you be elected. And Deb, we can start with you.
Well, I think that one of the things that's so important is people recognize what exactly the treasurer is. The treasurer is in an executive function where there are more than 9 departments, and the ability to have managed people, have negotiated a collective bargaining agreement successfully. 400 of the 800 are union employees. Understanding different business models, how you manage people, is actually a very important role for the treasurer. Having had experience with school building assistants on the user side, I know ways in which we need to be more user-friendly through school building assistants. Having had experience as a licensing authority in the town of Brookline, and knowing how to work with the Alcoholic Beverage Commission, having had experience in managing and investing pension funds. There are so many things that I bring to the table where I've had experience in those areas. Mike Heffernan, we don't all know very much about him. We know what his background is. I've met him once. I think we haven't seen much of him. But I believe that the Democrats will prevail, that we bring 2 things, expertise and values. The treasurer's job, which has been shown to be successful in the last 4 years, is someone who has the business background and the finance background, but also brings values to get the policy side done that reflects the values of all of our communities. I believe that I'm that person, and I look forward to the challenge of taking on Mike Heffernan and prevailing so that we can get to work for women, families, children throughout the state.
Deb, thank you very much. And next we will go to Tom. What makes you the best candidate for this job?
Well, I've talked to a lot of voters around the state, Rob, and they're looking for 3 things in their treasurer. Someone who has and shares their progressive values, someone who has the experience and the expertise to do the job of treasurer on day one, and someone who has a track record of achievement at the state level on issues directly related to what the treasurer needs to manage every single day. And that is what sets me apart. That's what I bring to this race. With all due respect to my colleagues, and they've had great careers, what I bring to this table that's fundamentally different is real experience in finance, real experience getting stuff done at the state level by authoring laws that have enhanced our credit rating, something that makes the treasurer's life more successful every single day and saves taxpayers millions of dollars. I'm the only one who has gone through a couple of different rounds of pension reform, both at the local level and at the state level, to help cities and towns and our state have solvent and well-invested pension funds. That's the track record, helping working families every single day that I think people want in their next treasurer. And that's what I'm bringing to the table. That's what I'm bringing to this race. That's what sets me apart, and that's why I think I'm going to win.
Thank you very much. Barry,
Rob, first of all, thank you again for having us on, and also for the Media Consortium as well. Rob, I'm the son of 2 public school teachers, and the one thing they've taught me, that there's no magic in life, there's only hard work. So when I was 10 years old, I had a paper route, delivering the newspaper at 5 in the morning. When I wanted to go to college, I unloaded trucks at 3 in the morning to help pay for my own college education. When I wanted to go to law school, I worked 2 jobs during the day to help pay for my own law school education. When I was done with that, I scraped together every nickel and dime that I had, and I started my own business, and now 15 years later, now we have 25 plus people that I work with. So I feel I have the experience in the private sector. My wife is also a small business owner, and like most people in the Commonwealth, they are also small business owners as well. At the same time, I've had experience. I was a member of the Board of Selectmen, member of the House of Representatives, also a member of the State Senate, where I was on the Ways and Means Committee, the Taxation Committee. So I have experience dealing with the budget, I have experience dealing with financial literacy, and I have experience to do a good job from day one. But with this office, I want to invest in Massachusetts. I want to make sure that we use our pension funds to try to create more jobs here in the Commonwealth. I want to make sure that we invest more in education, so we give kids a 21st century education. And I want to make sure that we continue to invest in our local communities, trying to send back as much local dollars as possible. So I will work hard every single day to protect the taxpayers' dollars, and I'll work hard every single day to make sure that we're investing in Massachusetts.
Barry, thank you very much. And again, Barry-Finegold, Tom Conroy, and Deb Goldberg, your candidates, Democratic candidates for state treasurer. Thank you all very much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for doing this.
Thank you, Rob.
Really appreciate it.
Oh, certainly.
Thanks very much.
And we'd also like to thank our panel of journalists, Karen Brown from New England Public Radio and Ron Chamelis from The Republican. And last but certainly not least, we'd like to thank you, the viewer, the reader, the person running into this on the internet. Thank you for taking the time to watch and listen to these very important topics in the state treasurer election this year. And more important than who you actually go out and vote for on September 9th is the fact that you take time to go out and vote. It's crucially important, and a lot of places and a lot of people do not have this right or this possibility or opportunity. So take advantage of it. Take 10 minutes out of your day and hit the polls. Again, thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
This forum and others like it throughout the election season will be available online at cbs3springfield.com, MassLive.com, and full coverage in the Republican newspaper and on New England Public Radio. Thanks for watching.